Right, I had zero intention of doing a video like this, but due to stupidity, we are now going to look at the Strikers Meta Part 2, and that is the math behind it, because apparently people can't figure it out. So, yeah, this is probably going to be quite a boring one, but let's just get it over and done with, shall we? So here we have my standard DPS build. This is what I typically run, apart from I normally run the Shield Splinter because optimally it does more damage. Shock horror. Anyway, so this is what I run, and let's figure out just how much this does on average over 1 second. So FAMAS has a base weapon damage of 101,639 with all the weapon damage blah 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 blah, plus vigilance is 127,045, adding 171% critical hit damage. We hit 344,288, adding the 40% of base damage after vigilance. For killer, we get 395,104. If we get a headshot, that adds our base damage with vigilance back on, which gives us 522,149. Then there's the fun part, multipliers. So with a crit, we had 395,104. Multiplying that by damage to targets out of cover and our perfect glass cannon, which is a grand total multiplier of 1.48. Need to add the 1 there because that's our base damage, and then the 48 is the perfect glass cannon plus damage targets out of cover. That gives us 584,754, and then with doing the same equation with headshot, we get 772,781. Pretty damn simple, right? Now to work out DPS, we use RPM divided by time times the average damage. So 900 divided by 60 is 15, which means we're firing 15 rounds per second. So 900 divided by 60 times our base crit, which we already established is 584,754, which gives us 8,771,310 damage, which means every second that is our average, roughly. If we get headshots, and every single one of them is headshots as well as crits, we get 11,591,715. Now the caveat to this, because what you're about to see with Strikers kind of blows this out of the water, is that is literally from the off. There's no build up, there's no anything. That is literally, you pull the trigger, that is roughly how much damage you will do per second. Now I received a bit of hate on my previous video and was told that if you don't use the chest piece you're uneducated in the way of Strikers, so this is, because I did ask him to send me his build but he didn't, so this is the best I could come up with, and the way this works is 101,639 plus vigilance is 127,045. Pretty similar, right? Now we are running a little bit less critical hit damage, which puts us to 282,038, but we add in coyotes, which is another 25%, which is 313,796, and then adding in killer puts us to 364,612. We are still below, but we lose 25% headshot damage, which puts us to 459,896. Now the interesting part here is obviously Strikers needs to ramp up. So we need two equations. So our crit obviously was 364,612, and then we're going to times that by our damage to targets out of cover, of which we only have 10%, which puts us to 401,073. But as we ramp up at max stacks using Strikers, we get a 1.6 multiplier, 1 being our base, and the 0.6 is the 50% from using the chest, and then the 10 from damage targets out of cover, which puts us at 583,779, and then the same with headshots puts us at 505,886 without the ramp up, and then at max stacks we're at 735,834. Now shot for shot, this is actually quite a considerable bit lower than the previous build. For comparison, let's just do a quick show and tell. So my base DPS that I normally use hits on an average crit 584,754, where Strikers will hit at base 401,000, creeping up to 583,000. This is, although still high, is still below. On headshots, mine hits 772,781. At base, Strikers will be 505,000, and then at full ramp up of Strikers will be 735,000. This is still below. But don't you worry, all you Striker babies. because the RPM is what counts, right? So, right, we have 1035 RPM divided by 60, because that's what Strikers gives us, another 15%. By the way, that means you fire 2 extra bullets a second. Before ramp up, you hit about 6.9 million DPS. Mine is 8.7. At max ramp up, you have 10 million DPS. On headshots, you have 8.7 million DPS. Mine is 11.5. At max ramp up with Strikers, you hit 12.6. It is going to take you a full 5.6 seconds to hit that full ramp up, assuming none of your shots miss, because you still got to reload and you're going to lose 2 stacks per second. Guess how much DPS you lose just trying to ramp up compared to the, I don't know, even mine. My build, my setup's not even meta. Guess how much DPS you lose? About 3.8 million. Is Strikers meta in this way? No. Now, I could sit here and bore you with more math, but, well, I'm actually going to. But we could test out a multitude of different builds and multipliers and different setups and ways in which you work it, and the result is going to be the same every time. Strikers versus the actual meta is killed because of the actual ramp up. If you were able to basically start at max stacks, but I don't know, you lose them whenever you miss, but you just gain 2 every second regardless, that would actually be a more optimal way to run it, because you're able to maintain higher stacks more effectively, especially when engaging the fight. It's that ramp up that is destroying it. You cannot claim Strikers is actually meta, because that ramp up is literally setting you back so far that I would literally need to stop shooting for about 6 seconds while you are constantly shooting for about 6 seconds for you to actually catch up in DPS. It's ridiculous, which is why I proposed in one of my other builds this. So this is a build I put up recently. There'll be a link somewhere if you want to go watch it. This basically allows us to get Strikers without using Strikers, but we're using Strikers on top of it anyway, which is just absolutely ridiculous. The only part of this build I don't like is it forces you to use that 8x scope. Anyway, just because we've been going through math, let's just do more frigging math. I know, I'm boring, but stupid people ask for this. So let's start with Deja Vu. 101, 639, add in Vigilance 127045. Add in our 117% critical hit damage, we get to 275,684. And in Killer, we hit 326,500. Headshot damage is at 105%, which means we get 459,895. So far, it's not looking too good, but wait, there's multipliers. So, with damage to targets out of cover, on crit, we get 359,150 with the full focus and Strikers setup, which is another stupid amount. It gives us a 1.95 multiplier. We hit 636,675. That's the highest it's been so far. With headshots, with just damage to targets out of cover, 505,885. And then with the full 1.95 multiplier, 869,795. Let's actually look at the DPS now. So, without the Strikers and focus, our DPS is actually lower with 6,195,338. With Strikers and focus active, we hit 10.9 mil. On headshots, we hit 8.7 mil. And then with the full Strikers focus, we get 15.4. Where are we getting all these multipliers from? Well, focus is 60, Strikers is 25, that's 85 right there. Add in the 10% damage to targets out of cover, there we are, 1.95. Just so that we can compare, Strikers is white, Pristine with Strikers is white, the Strikers with the chest is black. As you can see, without the ramp up, on crit we are doing less, but the moment we get that ramp up, we are near enough a million ahead on DPS. Go us. On headshot, we're only really a tiny bit behind, like literally 20,000 damage behind. But the moment we get that full ramp up, we are staggeringly, like near enough 3 million ahead, like 2.8 mil ahead on DPS. Now, there's going to be people going, oh yeah, but you still got to ramp up and like Striker's chest starts out stronger. Yes, but in order to get that, you've got to get 100 stacks. I just have to hit 50, which means I can near enough do that in one magazine. Well, I'll get to 48 in one magazine because you're going to lose 2, is it 1 or 2 per second, whatever. Like, optimally, using Pristine Example is better. You get your stacks quicker and your higher damage output is higher. Like, flat out. The only way in which Strikers is meta, and I'm saying it again, categorically, don't care what anyone says, the only way in which Strikers is meta is if you use Pristine Example. Flat out. Stop bothering me with your crap comments saying that I've done something wrong. No doubt someone's going to tell me that I've done the math wrong. Okay, it's simple fucking math. You can't really screw it up. Okay, stop wasting my time. Strikers is not meta, but if you are going to claim it as meta, you better be using Pristine Example. End of.